Brittany Elise has been performing since 2007 and she has graced many festival stages in Australia and played at CMA Fest in Nashville, amongst other things. In 2019, she released the album Something More and followed it in 2022 with Just Be. Her latest single is the inspirational and motivational Hi, It's Me, and Brittany is back in Australia for a few shows after spending quite a bit of time in Nashville. So we're going to talk about Nashville and the single. How are you, Brittany? Great to see you.
I'm so good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well and pleased to see you. We saw each other not that long ago in Nashville. In fact, it was a mere few weeks ago, although it does feel like longer, but it seemed like you were very much at home there. I'm wondering if it feels that way to you now, like home.
Oh, totally. It was actually so nice to see one, you, two, an Aussie in Nashville, and three, what better place could we have caught up? Country
Yeah.
music capital of the world. But yeah, no, Nashville's such an incredible place. And it's nice when you go somewhere and you really feel like that is home as well. Obviously, this is very much home, but it's nice to have that home feeling away from home as such.
Yeah. You had all the great local tips as well, and you put me on to a songwriter night that was on. I'm not going to say where it was because we don't want everyone rushing there. Yeah, it seemed to me that you were just very much in the flow of it. How long did it take you? Well, actually, I should say, when was your first trip there?
So my very, very first trip there, I was 12 years old. But in the last professional music career, I've been over there a lot in the last 2 years. So 2023, 2024, I've
Mhm.
spent almost 50-50 time between the two places.
Right. And was that a conscious decision for your career? Like you thought, all right, I'm really going to have a crack at this and I need to be there?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Australia is such a wonderful place, but I've got teams in both places now, which is super exciting. And so to be able to spend time, and it's all about growth. It's all about, for me, Nashville, the most special part of Nashville is how many like-minded people are in one place. And that you just can't get in Australia. We've got so many amazing friends, so many incredible artists, but we're so spread out. And, you know, we're seeing each other for 5 minutes at a festival as we jump off the stage and on the stage for the transition. So, but Nashville, it's 24/7 music. You go to the clothing store and someone incredible is there playing in the corner. So yeah, it's just, there's something about that place. Can't even put it into words sometimes.
Yeah, well, as soon as you get off the plane and you walk into the terminal, there's live music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
In some respects, I felt like I should have expected it, but then it was still like, wow, there's a band playing in the terminal, and then there was a band playing as I left too.
Yeah, literally. Guitars everywhere. Welcome to Music City everywhere.
Yeah, but there, it is Music City. It's a great place to be. Of course, there are a lot of people there trying to make a go of it. So when you first arrived, when you were going to spend some time there, how did you even go about making those connections? Did you just go out to bars and start chatting to people?
Look, it's always a tough one. Everybody there is incredible, like from every single tier of the industry. Yeah, for myself, I went out and just connected with as many people as possible. Like, it's one of those things you don't even know who you're going to run into in the supermarket. Like, you just don't know who you helped get the can off the shelf for. And this actually happened to me, and it was a Grand Ole Opry member. And I didn't realize till I went to the Grand Ole Opry, and I was like, oh my goodness, I'm watching that same person that I helped in the grocery store. And you just don't know. Like, Keith Urban's a prime example. Sit next to him having dinner one night. That's just how it happened. You just do not know who you're going to see and who you're going to meet. And that's one of my favorite things. And so I just went out, and there's just so many great people. An amazing American Nashville culture thing, in my opinion, is they pull you up as much as possible. Like, everyone is willing to help, and everyone's so talented, whatever that looks like, whatever field of the arts that they're in. For my world, yeah, they're just absolutely incredible people as well.
So if you were to give a first-time visitor a tip for best restaurant to go to, what would your tip be?
Oh, that is actually a hard one. I have like almost a local favorite for everything, but Mexican is very good in Nashville, for anyone that loves Mexican. But I also have some favorite Italian restaurants that I've found, let alone you can find your fried chicken burgers. on every corner as well. So there's literally something for everyone. I cannot pinpoint one favorite. I just can't. There's just so much good stuff.
I did go looking for fried food. I don't eat meat, but I was looking for French fries and I was staying downtown and I had trouble. I had to go to a food court
Yeah,
to find it.
yeah,
Downtown.
that sounds a tough one.
Yeah. That was there
Yeah.
wasn't as much fried food down there as I was expecting.
All the hidden gems are about 10 to 15 minutes surrounding the city.
Yeah.
As you know, sometimes with live music venues as well, but definitely in terms of food.
Yeah. So has there been one particular highlight for you of your time there thus far, like one performance you've been to or one venue you've been to?
Look, I've had multiple, to be honest, like as in moments that I've dreamed of as a child that you just would never picture that's going to happen, but it had. Like, so I got invited to the Grand Ole Opry last year for Carrie Underwood's 15th year Grand Ole Opry debut. And then I got to speak to her and we had really good chats as well. And then I sat on the Grand Ole Opry stage while she performed.
Oh,
Like
wow.
that, it was insane. Like you can't even, it feels like a fairy tale you just made up, but that's exactly what happened. And Carrie Underwood's been one of my inspirations growing up. So that was pretty phenomenal. This year, one of my first songs that I ever sang was a Patsy Cline song. And she had her crazy premiere of a documentary called Crazy, and I was invited to be the special guest performer. So I got to perform in front of all her family and then catch up with her family and speak to them about her and obviously all the things that they've done in their own lives as well. Like, and then my third one, because I just can't, this is just so Nashville. I was signing as the official artist for CMA Fest 2024 at Music City Centre. And right next to my booth was Dolly Parton speaking to everybody. And so it was just those three women alone are legends, let alone anything else that happens in Nashville. And you can imagine little small town country Queenslander in Nashville going, is this really happening, or are these just so many pinch me moments, you know? But yeah, no, it's phenomenal.
And I do tend to think you make your own luck with things like that, right? I mean, you've showed up and you've stuck with it. And I wouldn't mind betting that you didn't show up there thinking, oh, everything's going to happen for me really quickly. You actually were prepared to put in the time and the work.
100%. And as we were talking about before, like how many people can you meet and you just don't know who's going to help you? Like sometimes, like there was one performance when I first got there, I just didn't know anyone. And there wasn't that many people in the crowd, which I definitely expected on my first performance. And out of the, handful of people that were there, it was someone connected to CMA Fest. And that's kind of like, they didn't say anything at that time, but followed my journey then for the next 8 months. And then I guess the rest is history when I performed at some of those supporting events around that festival.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I love hearing the story. It's yeah, and I think it ties in well with your single, actually. Hi, it's me. But we will get to that. I am going to now move to talking about you being back in Australia, which is where you are when we're speaking. And you've already played some shows in Queensland with some more coming up. How did you pick your destinations this time?
I wanted to do something different with this tour. Obviously, it's the Hi, It's Me tour. We're coming to the end of 2024. And I wanted to make this one as regional and small town, plus some of my favorite festivals that fall in this time slot as possible. And so we're hitting some of the towns that I played potentially to no one right back in my early career. And to now we've got such a massive following. And so that's something that's super exciting, is going to those towns. And we've just played multiple shows this week alone, and it's just so much fun. There is nothing like a small town country crowd, firstly. And secondly, going back to somewhere many years after for a group of people that have supported you. So yeah, it's fun is one definite word that I'm using, but it's also pretty special doing a full circle moment.
I think fun is a really powerful motivator, and I'm inclined to think that we should all lean into it a little bit more. Maybe not necessarily the older we get, but just in this day and age, fun's a good word.
It is, and life's just too short. Like, I mean, for me, I get to call this my job. Sometimes I pinch myself every day because that's just such the dream. But to be having that much fun with such great people, there's like hardly a bad day in terms of shows. So yeah, it's just so good.
Now, you did almost literally hit the ground running when you returned because you were playing groundwater, and that was the
Yeah.
week you came back. And given that you'd been in Nashville for a while, I would imagine the jet lag was fairly intense.
It was pretty strong. One of those things you don't know what time zone you're on or what day of the week it is or where you're meant to be. But groundwater was such a beautiful way to kickstart the tour. It really was. We've driven the festival for a while and we haven't been able to line it up until this year. So it was super exciting. That was my debut groundwater. But also we had 3 shows. I was like, we're going to play as many shows as we. Yeah, again, so much fun and so nice to catch up with so many people. So many people traveled for, especially around that area, to see us.
Mhm.
So that was really great.
Yeah, that festival seems to be growing in prominence, and all the artists seem to love it. So I can only imagine it will be bigger and better every year, as is the Tamworth Country Music Festival, where you are heading in January as well. So when did you line up that show?
Tamworth, it's always been on the cards. I think I've been going to Tamworth every single year since I was 9 years old. So we've only missed, maybe two in that time. So Tamworth it's where I started and it's kind of very special. I'm pretty much ending the tour there. So, and we've got a pretty fun project that we're going to be launching at our Tamworth show in 2025. So it's going to be really exciting. A nice way to end the tour as well.
And given that you are from Queensland and you're traveling around that state, you should be well prepared for any heat that may occur in Tamworth.
You would think so, yes. But Tamworth is another level. But
Mind
yeah.
you, Nashville is also quite hot, as I discovered.
It is. I feel like you're right though. Being a North Queenslander, I definitely adapt more than a lot of people do. So I'm grateful for that component of it. But yeah, it's not really Tamworth without the heat. I wouldn't know any different.
Yeah, that's true. I just often feel sorry for the artists who are invariably wearing boots and or jeans and carrying equipment and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I wish I picked a different style for the heat.
Now, your latest single, as discussed, or as mentioned rather, is Hi, It's Me. And it is a song about believing in yourself when others doubt you. It was inspired by something that I didn't know about you before, even though we've chatted before. And that is that in your early 20s, you had a very bad injury and there was some doubt you would walk again.
Yeah, crazy. So I've literally always been very heavily involved in sport and music since they say I could run before I could walk. And I actually used to sing the national anthem and then go play the sport at a state level or national level actually as well. And that's how it's always been. But yeah, in my early 20s, I did an injury playing sport, and I'm now in the record books actually because I was the first success story. Because yeah, they didn't know if I was going to walk again. They didn't know if I was going to run again. Like definitely not running. And they say when you put your mind to something, especially when it comes to me, I will definitely achieve it. Like I'll just work really hard until that outcome happens. And yeah, I did recovery. I was in a wheelchair for a bit as well, and happily to announce that I am walking and running again, and I'm back doing, I retired from sport in terms of competitive, but yeah, it's lovely to be back. And yeah, that's literally the whole essence of this song and how you can believe in yourself in whatever world it is. It could be parenthood, it could be your job, it could be changing your job, it could be just general life. If you keep showing up for yourself and, proving yourself right, I think is important rather than proving other people wrong. And the whole thing is about being unstoppable with that. And so we did that into the music video as well, and brought in the sport element of a young girl following the storyline into professional sport, which was so much fun. We filmed that one in Nashville as well, and we even managed to get jerseys that matched the Australian colours, which was I was stoked about. So, but yeah, no, it was such a special moment to tie all of this story together into the Hi, It's Me storyline.
But I would imagine when that happened to you, given how athletic you had been, it would be very, very hard to leave that behind. Well, to really face the prospect that as you said, you've given up competitive sport, you are moving again, but to have been so competitive, competing at that level, yeah, it would have been a very difficult adjustment. I know you went to music because you already had that, but do you think it took you a while to actually adjust to the change?
Yeah, it did. But also in one way, if you know me really well, I always have to be busy. Like I love being busy. How much can you fit in a day, in a month, in a year? So actually, when I retired, I moved into a coaching role. So I still to this day, actually, when I'm back in the country, sometimes they time it beautifully, I coach state level sport. So no word of a lie, I was coaching state level sport during the day and then playing groundwater every night and then coaching state level during the day. And I did that for the whole 3 days of the state championship and groundwater. Because again, they're both my loves, and that's just me to a T. How much can I fit in a day, even if it sounds crazy?
And while you were heavily jet lagged too. Yeah.
Yes, correct. And in 2 different towns.
Yeah, because I must say that you have national titles in futsal and then you have state titles in field hockey and athletics. So it's not even like you were just a team sport person, you were also an individual sport person with the athletics.
Yeah, exactly. I've played every sport under the sun, including rugby, potentially to my mum's not love, but I've played it all. So yeah, I mean, it's the best way to be a coach too, if you've played a lot of sport.
Yeah. And I would imagine that a lot of what you learnt as an athlete, you have been able to apply to music, because I often think there are parallels there in sport, just as in music, you're doing a lot of scales and drills, and you have to learn the basics before you can play pieces of music. In sport, you have to do drills and practice, and then you get to compete. But that I think that tolerance for boredom almost is the way I'm framing it to myself now as someone who does sport and music. Yeah, I think it's that you're prepared to put up with the things that don't seem like they're getting you anywhere.
Yeah.
And they ultimately will.
Yeah. There's just something, I don't know, we're both fortunate if we're both in the sport and music world, but there's just something magical about both worlds, and even better that they work together. And I mean, sometimes I feel like I am running a marathon on a stage, so that also helps. And yeah, they give each other benefits.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, the athletic fitness for singing, and also having,
Yeah.
you mentioned Dolly Parton. I remember seeing her live a few years ago, and she was already in her 70s, and it was a 3-hour performance. And she's on heels, and she's in costumes, and then she's changing costumes, and she's carrying the instruments and different instruments. But the woman must be incredibly fit.
Exactly right. I think of someone like Pink as well. Like all of the acrobats and stuff that she does is like insane, but that is exactly her, and to the T why her show is so incredible.
Yeah. So also it seems that you liked competition because got these titles. You don't do that unless you are competitive. And it also seems to me that you understand that competition can be really healthy, that it's not necessarily about beating other people. It's actually about getting the best out of yourself.
Oh, 100% in both worlds. So yeah, and I think that's something, probably the one thing that really correlates from sport to music is how much you can support each other and the element of teamwork.
Mhm.
Um, Behind every artist, whether it's a small team or a big team, there's a network.
Right.
There's a network cheering you on, you know, helping you get somewhere else. And yeah, very much two parallel worlds that link together.
Mm-hmm. And also athletes have a never say die attitude, I tend to think, when they're successful. And the forbearance you must have had as in athletics and in sport in general, in order to, I think, what you've done in Nashville, really, to just show up and stick with it. So yes, I guess that's more a statement than a question, but I can see now that I know about your background, a lot of things coming through from sport.
Definitely. And now you'll know this, that Heights Me was also secretly written like a sport anthem.
Yeah. Well,
And
and it
you'll
works.
understand now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really works as that. So when was it written?
I wrote that one in 2023, actually. One of the very last songs that I wrote, actually, in Nashville before I came back. And then I quickly literally went into the studio the next week. I just loved it. And I was like, we've got to record it. And so we did. And then I've been sitting on it for a while. And then I just thought it would be perfect. Celebrating my arrival back to Australia and the time in Nashville and everything that we've done. And it's almost like a reintroduction. But hi, it's me. This is Brittany Elise.
So when you record a song that far away from releasing it and you said you're sitting on it, is it just that sense of waiting for what you feel is the right time, or you have other plans for things and you just want to see where that song fits in?
A little bit of both. I think we've talked about this before, but I love having a double meaning for why songs are released and what the point of it is. We definitely need to talk for my next single too, because that's going to be a really good chat as to why that one's being released and when. But yeah, this one definitely links into the tour and to the building with my Australian and my US team and the coming together of that. This is the first song off that group. So yeah, it's really just a link to all of those things. And I feel like I'm going into a new chapter of my career and everything that I've built in both countries, so which is super exciting. And this song was just the perfect introduction to that.
So given that you like to be busy, I would imagine you also like to plan your time. So looking into 2025, we have the Tamworth show at the start of the year, but have you made a plan for what's coming next?
I feel like I'm working in 2026 already. That's where we're at. But no, yes, so much new music coming. And we're just trying to put in as much as we can to 2025. I'm really excited about 2025. Obviously, we're going to finish the Australian tour, but we're also going to have some international shows as well, which is super, super exciting. And there might just be an album on the horizon too. So it's all going to be happening in 2025.
Well, I think there were 3 years between your first two, and so 3 years between 2 and 3 makes sense.
Yeah.
So do you have now, you mentioned you've got teams in both Australia and the United States. So do you now have a team in Nashville that you like to write with and record with?
Yes, I've got people that I love writing and recording with. I think it's about the song though. I've done that. There's multiple songs on the record. Definitely a lot done from the same producer, but there's also a couple of other producers based on songs. Because I think each song I like to treat like its own little project as it is, and what sounds match that story being told and when that's being released and that type of thing as well. But this album is probably going to be the first that's closest to the same producer almost for every single song. I think at this stage there might only be one that's not from that producer.
Well, Hi, It's Me is definitely a motivational anthem for the summer as we're going into, but I think it would apply equally well to a Northern Hemisphere winter. But to anyone who hasn't heard it, if they feel like energizing themselves and motivating themselves for the day, the week, or the month, they can put it on. And I can't wait to find out what you're up to next, because I'm sure it will be very interesting, and love the sound of new music coming. But I will leave it there for this song. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me as always.